When you're co-parenting and it's really difficult to communicate, then I would suggest that you use a parenting app. Now, a parenting app is where you and your spouse communicate solely through that app. You can send bills back and forth with each other, you can do messages, you can do video, but that way everything's contained, so you'll have a record of everything that happens. And one thing that I think is important is to keep it in writing. If there's ever going to be any room for interpretation, you want to make sure that you have it in a text message or an email. It's too easy to say that somebody said something if you don't have any proof. So make sure that you keep it in writing. And above all, be civil. Don't use profanity. Don't do any name calling, and be as neutral as you can be, because remember, those messages can be used against you in court later on. The best way to use a co-parenting app is to make sure you utilize all the categories that it has. There are places for your expenses. There are places to leave messages. There are places to post announcements and notifications. Then there are also places where you can use video and audio. If you utilize those parenting apps for all the communication, then you can be sure that you have it all captured. So if you need it later on, if you forget something, or maybe you just need to prove that you actually did tell that person something, then you're going to have it right there at your fingertips. There are times when your spouse or ex-spouse will want to continue to talk to you about issues with a divorce, and they're going to manipulate the time with the children to do that. For instance, you get to talk to your child every night at 7, and the parent will come on the call and they will want to talk about issues related to the marriage or the divorce. You can end the call right there. You don't have to make yourself available to hash through the issues in the divorce when it's your time to speak to your children. So that's when I would say hold your boundaries firm. If you need to get your attorney involved, then you can have your attorney send a letter and say, we're not going to talk about the divorce during parenting time. You don't want to interfere with your children's time to try to argue with the other person. If you have an uncooperative ex, then again, you need to communicate with them only in writing. Sometimes if they won't listen to you, you might have to go back to court. There are times when you just cannot get anywhere with them unless you have a third party step in. Maybe you want an attorney to send a letter. Maybe you have to file a legal action. If they don't want to do what they should be doing, sometimes that's the only way to get compliance. When I was growing up, my mother always told me to make sure that anything I said, I wouldn't mind if somebody said it to me. So I think it's important that you think about that. Is this something I would be okay if they said it to me? Before you spout something that you're going to regret later on, just have a little inner dialogue with yourself to make sure this is actually something you want to say and that you want a record of. If you have a question about communicating with your spouse, whether they be communicative or unresponsive, then please give us a call at Lee Daniel and Associates, and we'll be happy to talk with you about how to best communicate with your spouse or ex-spouse.